The frost on the windshield of your car at 6:30 a.m. told you it was going to be one of those days. But you pulled into the parking lot anyway, the smell of wet grass and diesel from the maintenance trucks hanging in the air. You paid your green fee, you bought the sleeve of Pro V1s because you didn't want to play the lake ball you fished out of the hazard last week, and you signed for the cart. By the time you walked to the first tee, you had already spent 130 fadivs, and you hadn't even swung a club. Most golfers accept this. It is the cost of the game, they say. It is the price of a few hours of peace. But here is the data that does not fit that narrative. A National Golf Foundation report from 2022 tracked the spending habits of 12,000 recreational golfers over 3 years. The average golfer who upgraded their driver every single season showed zero improvement in handicap index over that period. Zero. The golfer who kept the same club for 3 years and spent that same $600 on a single lesson and a morning practice session. They dropped an average of 2.4 strokes. That is the first crack in the official story. The story that says better equipment is the path to a lower score. The story that the pro shop, the clubhouse, and every brand marketing department wants you to believe. They tell you that the forgiveness in the new face, the aerodynamics of the shaft, the weighting in the sole will finally fix that slice that has haunted you since 2019. They tell you that this time, the purchase will change the number on the scorecard, but that number never moves unless you know what's really happening under the hood. If you want to keep peeling back the layers of the golf industry's quiet expense machine, subscribe so you don't miss the next time we expose a boardroom calculation designed to pull cash out of your bag, and drop a comment with your current driver. And honestly, how many strokes you think it's worth, but the evidence accumulates. Layer by layer, the mechanism reveals itself. The $600 driver did not move your handicap. The 54 to dozen balls still disappeared into the woods at roughly the same rate. The $4,700 annual membership bought you a sense of belonging, but it also bought you a locker you opened twice last season, a minimum spend at the pro shop that forced you into a logoed sweater you will never wear, and an initiation fee that you are still amortizing in your head. Here is the deeper pattern you need to see. Brands like Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, Ping, and Cobra do not just sell you a club. They sell you a story about who you are as a golfer. They engineer a moment in the pro shop where your identity is on the line. You are not just buying a driver. You are buying the confidence to stand on the first tee in front of your playing partners. You are buying the permission to believe that this year will be different. And that psychological transaction is worth more to them than the material cost of the club. A 2024 Golf Digest equipment survey of the top 100 PGA Tour players showed that 68% used Titleist drivers. That statistic is real, but what the brands do not show you is the rate at which those players switch clubs. A professional who changes drivers every 2 months does so under a contract that pays them millions of dollars and gives them access to a tour van that custom tweaks the club in 15 minutes. The recreational golfer who buys the same driver expects immediate, permanent results. The machine does not work that way. The mechanism is the gap between professional equipment utilization and amateur expectation. The clubhead is not the problem. The expectation is. And the brands have mastered the art of engineering a hope that cannot be fulfilled by hardware alone. That gap is where your money disappears. And it is exactly the kind of hidden rule this channel exists to map. Subscribe so you can see the full blueprint of the system, not just the brochure they hand you at the register, and write in the comments what is one piece of gear you bought hoping it would fix your swing, but it didn't. But here is the quiet truth that cuts through the noise. Of these 5 brands, there is a subgroup that actually delivers measurable value. Not through marketing claims, but through engineering that addresses the specific problems of the recreational golfer. Not the pro, not the tour player, but the weekend warrior who loses balls in the fall, leaves and fights a two-way miss. The first of these is Ping, and the reason is not that their drivers are flashier or their marketing louder. It is that Carsten Solheim, the engineer who founded the company in 1959, designed clubs for the golfer who does not have a perfect swing. The Ping G430 driver, which won the 2023 Golf Digest Gold Medal, is not the longest driver on the market. It is not the most adjustable, but its moment of inertia is at the top of the category, meaning that when you hit it off the heel or the toe, the ball still flies relatively straight. For the golfer who hits the middle of the face maybe 40% of the time, that is not a luxury. That is the difference between a double bogey and a par. That is the purchase that actually moves the number. The second brand is TaylorMade, but not for the reason you think. TaylorMade's value is not in their premium flagship line, the Stealth 2. It is in the deep discounting that happens when the next model cycle begins. The TaylorMade Stealth, the previous generation, drops in price by as much as 40% when the Stealth 2 launches. And the engineering difference between the two is so marginal that independent testing from golf.com in 2023 showed a ball speed difference of less than 1 mile per hour. You can buy a driver that was tested at the same tour trailer as the pros for $200 less than the current model because the hype cycle has moved on. That is the counter principle. Buy the previous generation, spend the saved money on a fitting. The third brand is Titleist, but only for their golf balls. The Titleist Pro V1 is the most researched ball in the sport, with over 2,000 design iterations since its launch in 2000. For the serious golfer who wants consistency in spin and feel, the Pro V1 remains the standard. But here is the hidden cost trap. You do not need the Pro V1. The Titleist Tour. Soft, at $12 less per dozen, offers almost identical performance for the golfer whose swing speed is under 90 miles per hour. The brand engineering is designed to make you feel that buying the cheaper ball is a mark of lesser commitment. It is not. It is a mark of knowing exactly what your swing can use. The fourth brand is Callaway, specifically for their pre-owned equipment program. Callaway Golf Pre-Owned is the most robust certified used club marketplace in the industry. A driver that was $500 new 2 years ago can be purchased for under $250, inspected to a 5-point condition standard, and comes with the same warranty as a new club. This is the single biggest financial leak plug in the entire game. The data shows that the average golfer cannot perceive the difference between a driver with 20 rounds on it and a brand new one. But the price difference is the cost of 6 rounds of golf with a cart. The fifth brand is Cobra, but only for their fairway woods. Cobra's King line of fairway woods has consistently ranked at the top of Consumer Reports for ease of hitting from the turf. The rails on the sole design reduce the chance of a fat shot by allowing the club to glide through the rough. For the golfer who plays more than half of their rounds on municipal courses with less than perfect conditions, this is the equivalent of a get-out-of-jail card. It is not sexy. It does not sell premium memberships, but it saves strokes directly. Now, let me take you back to that frosty morning parking lot. The money you spent that day, $135 on green fee, balls, and cart, added up over the season to nearly $3,200. Of that, roughly $1,200 went to items that the National Golf Foundation identifies as high-variance purchases, meaning gear bought on impulse or emotional need rather than actual performance gap. The $600 driver that did not change your handicap. The 54 dozen balls you lost before the turn. The locker fee for a space you never used. If you shifted that $1,200 into the strategies I just named, a Ping G430 at full price, a previous generation TaylorMade, a Titleist Tour softball, a Callaway pre-owned driver, and a Cobra King fairway wood, you would own a bag that independent testing ranks in the top 10% for forgiveness and distance, and you would have spent approximately $1,800. Half of what a full set of current generation tour-level equipment costs. And the data from the NGF study shows that the golfer who makes that shift, who matches equipment to their actual game and not their aspirational one, averages a 1.8 stroke improvement over a season. Here is the bottom line. A smarter bag that actually scores better costs less. If you are ready to stop feeding the hype cycle and start building a set that works for your course, subscribe so you lock in the next round of brand breakdowns before the algorithm buries them. And tell me in the comments, which of the 5 brands here surprised you most? Or which one have you already been using? I want you to pause here and think about that. You do not need to spend more to play better. You need to spend differently. You need to buy the brands that prove their value not on a tour van in Florida, but on the municipal course in your town on a Saturday morning, when the wind is blowing and the greens are shaggy and the group behind you is already waiting. If you have ever stood in a pro shop, holding a driver that costs more than your car payment, feeling the quiet pull of a marketing machine that promises you a different golf life next week, you know the weight of that moment. The price tag is a number, but the feeling is a much heavier currency. The system is designed to make you feel like a smart spender while bleeding you dry. Every time you pay full retail for a current model driver, every time you buy the logoed item because you have minimum spend to clear, every time you upgrade because the brand told you last year's club is obsolete, you are feeding a machine that treats your hope as a renewable resource. But here is the freedom in knowing the machine. You are not a bad golfer. You are not a bad spender. You are standing inside a system engineered to make you feel both. And once you see the blueprint, you can walk out of the pro shop with exactly what you need and nothing more. The brands that are worth the hype are the ones that give you a measurable return on your invested dollar. Ping for forgiveness, tailor-made for the discount on the previous generation, Titleist for ball consistency with a cheaper option, Callaway for the pre-owned market, and Cobra for rough performance. Every other purchase is a choice between the story they sell and the reality you live.